Welcome y también para mis latinos y latinas, bienvenidos in my next installment of my YouTube channel. I know I don't probably have the most views and all that have you, but I do want to go ahead and just say one thing. Have you all noticed by the time I did my whole tour of my setup and all that have you, do you guys really believe me when it comes to me saying that I build PCs and that I know what I'm doing when it comes to building them? I'll let you guys take a moment to think about that. Of course you don't. Who would believe someone like me that is not right in the head and mentally unstable would know anything about building PCs? And I get that. And I can understand that. And actually, I thrive on that. So, without further ado, what I'm going to do today for this video is do a bit of a demonstration on what I know when it comes to PC building. So, as you guys can probably tell by now, I've upgraded my setup a bit. I've actually acquired and bought a new PC, which is the NZXT case, but everything in here alone, I did myself. And sometimes I do still kind of get worried and cautious whenever I'm building the PC. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually going to show you all how I do it. And now that I'm thinking about it, I should have probably put the camera in a vertical way, because I'm sure some of you don't like it. And certain videos, at least on YouTube, have this type of frame and all that have you. So I'll go ahead and fix that right now. Whoop! There, is that a little better? Pardon the mess in my room. I know I'm probably not the most cleanest person in this whole city or in this whole country, but can you blame a guy? I just like to do what I do and have fun. So what do you say we quit the chat and actually start explaining what I'm about to do with this PC? Bam! Show the image. CPU fan. Bam! More memory. You guys kind of get the idea of what I'm about to do. I'm going to switch my current CPU fan with this more better up-to-date standard, hopefully better one. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and keep this as a spare or as an extra in case something does, knock on wood, happen to this bad boy. But I do want to save this one, so it might just be in the same box as this one. So let's go ahead and get to it. So enough talking, let's do some real work. Alright, now that I actually got my video camera to operate and actually have a stand for it, let's go ahead and get down to business on this, shall we? So basically what I'm going to do is make this, just go ahead and, I can't talk, is switch over my old CPU fan with my new one. But of course, it's not going to be as easy as we all think it's going to be. At least, I assume you all know, either you guys should know, that it's not a cake to do this. But naturally, you gotta at least get rid of some of the essentials before you start working. So, I'm going to go ahead and take off the GPU.
So I'm getting ready to take off the MSI GeForce RTX. Excuse it if it takes a little while, but I'll just clean up the dust and debris. And now I'm taking off the AMD CPU cooler. A little pesky because of the hook. Fucking man. And now, because it's always important to make sure you take off the hook, take off the CPU very, very carefully, because we don't want to have to bend those pins on AMD chips. Showing you that the pins and everything are looking secure. Apologize that the lens is a little fuzzy. And it's all good. Fucking man. Now we're just taking out the brackets that hold the CPU cooling fan together. And now done. This is just the back part
For the
of
piece de resistance.
other stuff.
As you can see, I am now unboxing my new CPU fan. And these are what I'm probably going to need the most. But primarily, I'm going to be using the AMD socket, have you? Not the Intel, because of course it's an AMD motherboard. So, let's go ahead and get out this bad boy.
I hate the fact that Noctua, first off, not trying to brag, but I do hate that they sometimes have to pack their fans in a very hefty but
I'm trying to do
sturdy
this as gentle as I can, but sometimes you have to be a little
box.
aggressive.
But we don't know how that is.
Alright. Oh. Now, as you can see, sure it's not the best looking CPU and it doesn't have a fancy ass RGB lighting, but really,
RBG?
it has to do with
I
the
think I meant to
performance
say
itself, how good it
RGB.
is.
Although,
saying.
does it really matter how people say it, as long as they just know what it is?
This is the part where I'm making a mess.
No shit. I'm pretty well known for making messes. Then again, that's just how I am. Don't hate. Don't judge.
Now, let's see what we got here. We got the essentials, primarily common parts, like it says on the label. Nice. But yes, primarily I'm going to need these. Looks like I may not need.
I apologize for anyone that is questioning or wondering. I have the camera
But I will
pretty
be
much pointing
needing
at my stomach
you.
and my arms, nowhere near my face. I'm not a
After this-
professional vlogger
It's useless.
or box opener, as they call them, as far as I know. Just want to point that out.
Now, because it's an AMD, it's going to require these primarily, along with these brackets. So we say we go ahead and get to that.
Finally. Sorry it took so long to unbox that, but we all know how that is. And I was just trying to show you exactly what boxes come with all the parts and pieces. And I apologize also if the lighting doesn't seem very insufficient. Insufficient. I don't know the proper word. It's really not that hard to put the brackets on there, actually. I was just more afraid of putting the CPU on there accordingly. It looks like everything's all coiled accordingly. Just had to screw it all in. Hand screw. And we're done. Fucking man. Sorry, that part went really quick. Now the hardest part to me, I cannot empathize as enough, was putting the damn AMD CPU back in the socket because of the pins. Fucking man.
Okay, so most of that time, in case my future me or in my mind me did not mention, just in case, that whole time, if you wondered if it was going on, I was basically cleaning the CPU chip itself to make sure there was no residue of this stuff.
Listen, you
Now, I
four prick.
cannot empathize that majority of the time I've always seen YouTubers that have more experience doing PC buildings and all that stuff. They always say less is more.
Very agree.
So one little dab of this stuff will do you. And honestly, it took me some time to really understand that and really comprehend what that means. But really, a little bit of this will go a long way. So keep that in mind for those of you that are still learning about all this stuff, or if you're a beginner PC builder.
It's very true. First off, Four Eyes, I did explain a little bit of what to do with the CPU socket. Yes, a little dab of that will do you, ladies and gentlemen. Fucking man. Now for the hard part, and that was definitely making sure the CPU cooler was aligned with the brackets and being able to make sure it seats accordingly. Because if you, much like myself, is not a professional PC builder, will eventually cause some problems, such as bending components or messing up the motherboard's main factors in order for it to work. Luckily, thank goodness for Noctua's ingenuity for allowing us to have that long ass screwdriver, which sometimes is uncomfortable to use, but hey, it gets the job done. As the old saying goes, you bleed, you sweat building your own PC. It's technically yours. And I can't tell you how many times I've cut my hand putting on CPU coolers. That's basically the only part I've ever cut my hand. Except for the time when I had to put in the GPU, which really like busted my hand open, but that's a different situation. Always make sure you screw it in nice and firmly. I know what I said. But don't over tighten it, because otherwise that's just going to mess with the motherboard and the brackets holding the CPU fan. A couple tightening screws and you're done. Fucking man. This was the hardest part. One of the hardest parts actually was just to hold the damn fan with the connectors. Noctua makes great fans, but sometimes I do get very cautious and careful. Double fucking man. Now connecting the fan to the proper pins was a bit tricky because it's right where that CPU, or not CPU, sorry, where one of the cooling fans is. It's basically right smack underneath it. Don't do anything I'm doing, basically. I'm sure any professional builder will tell you otherwise, or tell you the same thing, I mean. Make sure everything was holding and not getting all flim-flammery on me. I did have to adjust it a little bit, that's why I'm taking it off. And we're fast forwarding a bit. I had to take off the RAM sticks in order for me to get the connector to fit into the pins. This is what I'm talking about, putting your blood, sweat, and tears. Double fucking man.
I cannot empathize on how difficult it is just to put on the CPU and its fan. I don't care what anyone says, to me that is the hardest, scariest part, because that's basically the brain, the heart of the PC. So go ahead and judge me for what you want, but I just think that that's the hardest part of all PC building. Whew. But hey, at least I'm done. So take that, doubters that always doubt me when it comes to building PCs, although I'm not gonna get too confident because I still don't know yet if it's gonna work. But shit. Un momento, por favor. Okay, there. Now the camera doesn't look foggy or looks like I'm in a 420 concert. Not that it doesn't bother me, but anyway, that's a whole different situation. But it looks like I finally got the CPU fan in there correctly. Now I'm just begging and praying that I didn't mess up the CPU chip itself or mess up the whole think, because of course sometimes you think you're confident when it comes to PC buildings the first time, but then once you start doubting yourself and overthinking, that's when things start to go to shit. So for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and just say it's all done. Now we can move on to the next part of the project. Putting on the new SSD drive. And I get it. Most of the time, people just get like those really skinnier CPU, or why am I saying CPU? Most of the time, people get like those slimmer, smaller SSD drives, but because I'm a huge avid fan of Samsung, because of course I have a Samsung TV.
Now I'm just flexing.
Samsung monitor, and of course a Samsung phone. I went ahead.
Hey, dumbass. The hard drive is upside down.
How they make these, even like the smaller ones. I just thought that's all they made was just phones, TVs.
Again, flexing.
Kitchenwares like stoves.
But hey, if Samsung is looking for someone to sponsor, I'm always available.
So, thanks, Samsung.
Hey, again, if Samsung's looking to sponsor someone, please hit me up. But putting on the hard drive anyway, back to business, it's not really that difficult like some people always say it is. You just gotta know what the hell you're doing and knowing how the hell you're gonna put it on there. Which is why, thank God, the makers and developers that make these things always add those screw inputs to them. I apologize for not really fully showing you how I'm placing the hard drive onto its bracket. I thought I was facing the camera, but apparently all you guys are just seeing are my tattoos and just me kind of just twiddling my fingers. Like I'm not really knowing what the hell I'm doing or knowing where the hell the camera is. So, not a professional streamer, vlogger, PC builder, but hey, you learn as you go, right? This is not the point of YouTube. You learn things, and if you fail, you do better. Looks like it was getting all put together accordingly. I was just making sure the screws were going on there properly, making sure I didn't over tighten anything, which is always the biggest number one rule. One of the number one rules of PC building: never over tighten any screw on your PC. Because it could damage the components, it could damage any part of the PC that is very expensive, and then it's just a pain to solderize or do whatever you gotta do to refix it. Just saying. Resolderizing, it's solder. Solder, dumbass. Making sure it's tight. And it's good to go. Fucking man. Making sure everything looked accordingly. As you can see, I made sure the connectors were in accordingly. And then I went ahead and put the back plate on the back of the PC. And please don't judge me when it comes to cable managing, at least for the back of the PC. I'm still figuring that shit out as long as I go. But that's why there's no acrylic or window on the back of the PCs, so no one sees all that mess. The real beauty is in the front. Am I wrong? Again, I apologize for the camera. I am always thinking it's facing the right area, but it looks like it's not.
And boom, you're done. See how long that took? Honestly, it really didn't even take that long. It took like maybe like what, 20, 30 minutes at most? Damn, that's right. Okay, so sorry if it's a little dark right now, but because I'm just trying to make sure the lighting looks decently. In fact, okay, so I just turned on the flash 2 for my camera, and I already plugged up everything, and as far as I can see, At least when it comes to the
I
power.
am not sponsored
My keyboard,
at all
little
by Coca-Cola.
Corsair Nexus, is that little bar.
Unless
LED
they're interested,
bar
I would be
is
happy
appearing,
to
so
be
at
sponsored
least
by
that shows
Coca-Cola
that
and
there's
showing
power
off their
going
products
through
and
the
how awesome their
PC.
drinks are.
But that's not
I've
the
been drinking
big
them
thing I'm more
since I was
concerned
little.
about. And here's the history about myself when it comes to building PCs. I do honestly have a history not connecting all the proper essentials the proper way. Because most of the time, that's always been my biggest flaw. But as far as I see, looks like everything's all plugged in correctly and accordingly. And because I have anxiety and a lot of high anxiousness, I get very worried and cautious whenever I'm turning on the PC. So I'm just making sure it doesn't kill me or the internals parts. So the moment of truth. Alright, the motherboard is showing some life, and this has always been the scarier part for me, is the damn display itself. But it looks like there is life to the new CPU. But now my biggest concern is always the display. So, haha, success. Oh, I have display, and of course, I'm also just on the boot menu or the BIOS, UEFI BIOS. If I'm saying that correctly, I apologize to those who actually know it. But yes, we finally have life. It looks like everything's up to par as far as I see. Temperature's looking normal, but I'm going to do some more double checks to make sure everything is up to par. CPU fan speeds, okay, good. Let me do some more adjustments. Here we go. Alright, so the CPU core is at a good 98, 96 degrees. Systems at a good temperatures. CPU sockets at good temperatures. PCI. Looks like the fan setup is on time. Looks like all the settings are working functionally. So before I get too confident and say it's finally a success and that everything's working properly, I'm still being very carefully and letting it run a few bit. Man. That is awesome. Get my trusty light. So it looks like everything is as it should be. I don't hear any clicking, otherwise I would have known that I put the fan cord in the wrong slot or anything. Or it would be loose and just hitting like all the fans and all that have you. But it looks like there's life. Oh boy. I'm waiting and being patient to finally say it's a success. Alright. So now, yes, I haven't made any changes. So here we go. I'm letting it reset so it can get what it needs to do to work. Everything looks like it's going smoothly so far, so good. Showing that, great, good. Success. It is finally a success. Good. Alright, so it looks like it finally got booted up accordingly and correctly. So far I don't hear or notice anything clicking or beeping at me, because otherwise that would have definitely been a flaw in my attempts to get this working. And it looks like the GPU sensor is now going accordingly. Focus. Focus. Well, I guess you can't really see what it's saying, but you guys kind of get the gist of it. But that is my way of building PCs. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining me in this lovely experimental journey. I'll see you guys in the next video.